Now, before I work on the login from client-side validation, I want to give you guys a mini challenge, because you know the validation we're going to be using for this login form is the same as the one we used in the sign-up form. So the challenge I'll be giving you is go ahead, create the login.js file, then add the validation for email and password, because we already have it inside the sign-up or the registration.js file for the sign-up form. So you could just go ahead, pause this video, then add the validation. Then later we'll go through it together. Okay, I hope you managed to do that. Now to start with the validation, we go to our test editor. Now the first thing we need to do is we need to create a login.js file. We can call it login.js, or you can call it whatever name you like. So I'm going to call this login.js. Login.js. Now the next thing we are going to do is we just go to the reg.js, we copy everything we have in there, and we paste it inside the login.js file. Now we have the code inside the login.js. What we need to do is we need to change and remove the things we don't need. So we're only going to be working with the email and the password. So we're going to take out the first name and the last name validation. So first we take that out. Another thing we need to do is we need to change the ID of the click event. So what we called it was log_in. So we change this from submit to log_in. Then also for the email, we called it email_login, and the password we called it password_login. Now we also leave the boolean variable as true. Then also we take out this validation rule for first name and last name. We are not working with that. Then we use only the email and the password. So instead of having error email, we have error_email, which will be the tag, which is the ID of the span tag that will hold the error message. Error_email. Then here as well will be error_password. We take this to be error_password. Now also there's another thing we need to do. This form data for the Ajax, and we note that for the if statement we're saying if email is equal to empty, or the string passed into this function is not equal to what we have here, which is the return statement for the regular expression we have here. If they are not equal, then it should throw an error. Otherwise, the input, the span tag with ID error_image to be set to empty. And note that once there is an error, we set the boolean variable to false. Now if there is no error, then the boolean variable is set to true. We use this true value. Now after doing that, here this if statement says if there are no errors, that is if the boolean variable is equal to true, which means that if there are no errors, then we need to use Ajax to send this data to the insert or the file we are going to be creating, login.php, that will process the data. Now for this we can change the object name to login_data. Now we are creating an object that will hold the data, and we are using just email and password. So this email is the one that will be sent to the URL. Then this other one here is the one we created here. And you know, for objects usually have keys and values. So this is the key that will be passed to the script. Then the email, which is the value, is the one we got from this variable that holds the value from the input field. So we create a new object with the keys and values. So we have key email, value email, password, key password, value password as well. then we are creating an Ajax method. Now this Ajax method usually takes some parameters, and the parameters we are using are the URL, the type, the data, and this callback sources, which usually holds a callback function, which is going to be executed after this data has been sent to this URL. But in this case, we are not using the insert.php. We are going to create a new script file, call it login.php. So the URL, this is where the request will be sent to, the login.php. Then the type is post. Then we are sending the data. Now note that instead of just creating a variable to hold this, we can just copy this object and place them here. But to just keep things very simple and neat, we create this login objects here with the values. Then we just paste the name of the object here. So the data that will be passed is this login underscore data that holds these different keys and values. And for the sources as well, we just leave it the way it is. Now, if we try to validate without the prevent default, we can see what is going to happen. There's going to be a difference. But before we see how this validation works, we need to go into our index.php file and we add the login.js file. Now in our index.php, I removed the script tag that holds the red.js from the head here down to this part, which is before the closing tag for the body. So we just copy this, we paste, and we change this from red to login.js. Now we have this login.js file inside the index.php. Another thing we need to do inside the login form, we already added this span tag with ID error. Now we need to go to our CSS file to give this a color of red. So we go into our CSS, custom.css, then we create new properties. So it's going to be error underscore email, and this is going to be error underscore password, and underscore password. Then we give the property color red. Now if we go into the browser, we refresh and we see what's going to happen. So we refresh this page. Now if you notice that it did not display the browser or the errors. If you click on the submit, you see that it just immediately showed the error. The page refreshed immediately. So we click on this, we can see this. Now there's a reason why this is happening. So I will just end the video here. In the next video, we're going to fix this little problem that we're having with this.